Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 19 of Escambia Empires. It's episode 19 already. I can't believe this.
No, hard to believe.
So this episode we're flying pretty much solo, flying as a duet, just you and I without any guests. I am about to leave town for about 4 days tomorrow, go visit some family for just for the holidays.
To Wisconsin.
So we didn't book anybody for this evening because we weren't sure how it was going to go. We've been pretty busy today just doing transactional things before I leave town.
Especially with the holidays upon us.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So I actually posted a story earlier today on my Instagram, just asking people, hey, if you have any questions, real estate related or not, go ahead and submit those here. So I'll read those at some point in the episode. But also, this is kind of a rare opportunity for you and I, Danny, to talk about a couple things. We need to talk. I have some things that I've been harboring that I need to bring up finally.
And it's more disciplinary on air.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yep.
Heart to heart on air.
Carries more weight when I
have several,
crack that whip.
Yeah. Have several viewers
I think
judging our discipline actions.
I think your gain may be a little bit too loud. Or at least maybe you're talking a little too close to the mic.
I'm talking nice and close.
Okay.
I can always decrease the volume. It's easier to do that than increase it.
Okay.
So,
well, I mean, yeah, it's up to you. If you want me to talk a little closer, I can too.
there we go. That's clean.
Is that good?
Yeah. Talk
Okay.
a little closer. No
Talk a
big
little
deal.
closer. I tell everybody that gets on the podcast, hey, you can talk a little closer to the mic than you think you could.
Yeah. Here we
and
are.
Now, here we
Practice
are.
what you preach.
Exactly right. So having said that, Danny, how you enjoying the real estate industry? How's it treating you?
How's it treating me? I'll start with how am I enjoying it. I'm absolutely enjoying it. It's everything I thought it would be, yet obviously as everybody starts a new job, nothing I thought it was going to be.
Very different.
So, yeah, it's pros and cons to every career, every job, industry, all the above. But I would say it's definitely been way more enjoyable than it has been difficult. So,
I'm glad.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a pretty big learning curve, kind of diving in head first with no previous experience in real estate beyond buying and selling a house.
Yeah.
It's definitely been enlightening and more of a challenge, like I said, than I thought it would be. But I've enjoyed every step of the way. You're a great trainer. You're easy to work with. Yeah. And it's been good working with you.
Cool.
And,
you had to say that. So
yeah.
I don't think I would be a good trainer for anybody except you, to be honest.
Well,
I feel like, well, maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's not true. But I think you and I communicate well enough to where, you can kind of speak my language and you get what I'm saying.
oh yeah, definitely.
More so than most people probably would.
You can say different words and I'll still know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. Or I
in
can start
reality.
something and you're like, nah, I got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're good. Let's move on.
Yeah,
That
that's
happened
true.
just yesterday. I was explaining something and it was a little redundant and you're like, no, we're good. Yeah, no, we're fine. And I like that. I like having that relationship. So that I think that's why it's perfect for us to be working together.
Yeah.
What is different about the real estate industry than you thought it would be? How is your job different now than you were envisioning?
Let me put it this way. I would say it's different in the aspect of, I always heard that it would be heavily dependent on communication. It's definitely, that statement does not fall short at all. It's definitely,
It's everything.
It's ride or die on communication, straight up. You won't make it if you can't communicate. And it's not necessarily an area of my life that I struggle with, but it's, again, been a learning curve.
You have to be so deliberate.
Yep. It demanded improvement in that area. So kind of stepped up to the plate as much as I could there and continuing to learn and grow. But I would say otherwise, all the transactional stuff was pretty well expected. Again, I had been through the process of buying a home, so I already knew roughly.
You had more experience than I did.
Yeah, well, technically speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say as a plug for my realtor, she was pretty hands-off. She had everything under control, so I would just, sign any addendums or anything that came my way.
You're a dream client.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
Didn't
people
really
that
ask
send stuff to you,
questions
they're
or
like, what is this? What
didn't
is
follow
this?
up. Now, I will say selling my house was a different story. I
Really?
followed up with her often. We had my first contract actually fell through. It was a 45-day closing, and it fell through on day 44, the day before closing. financing fell through, and
Whose
they said it
fault
was
was
going to
it?
be. Yeah, it's a hard line to draw.
Yeah.
But I definitely realize how incredibly important a realtor is in the transaction
Yeah.
because of that. It's not necessarily anybody's fault, but if you're not taking charge, like you've been training me to do, you're not taking charge and running point in the operation, then things can fall through.
Well, someone
very
has
last
to.
minute.
And to be
Yep.
honest, typically only one person in the transaction does.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
There's that one person who makes sure that everybody's coordinated, and it's just such a stereotype. Often lenders are really bad at communicating.
Yeah,
Title companies can be as well. Title companies kind of, well, excuse me. Title companies, not so much, because they're the ones that have to have everything prepared for closing. So they're the ones that understand what's at stake, as it were,
Yep.
I suppose. But having said that, I've worked with some title companies, like the day before closing, I'm trying to call the closer to ask her a question, and I had a lady decline like 3 of my calls.
Ooh,
And I was
difficult.
like, I'm not going to say where that was.
That's
Maybe I should
difficult.
say where it was, but no, I was like, I will never, ever do a closing here again if I
Yeah.
can't get a hold of you when I need something.
Exactly. You got to be on call.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with, that's why we use Derek at Homebridge.
Yep.
If I call him, he answers. When you need something, that person has to be reachable. That's what I said in the weekly email today. Just talking about how busy this market is. It's crazy. And if you're a buyer and you see a house on the market that's just been listed, you have to get in and get an offer written as soon as you can.
Yeah.
It's a speed game.
Yep. If they're ready to list their home, you got to be able to do it within,
Get it done now.
We kind of advertise 48 hours because you got to pull the trigger. You got to,
Yeah.
whether it takes overtime or it's an easy, listing to put up, you got to get it done.
Exactly. Yeah, I tell everybody from the time you sign the listing agreement, from the time it's up on the MLS. Now, obviously, this isn't true every time, but typically, if I can get pictures scheduled right after that, then it can be 48 hours.
Yeah. The pictures
Until
is
yeah.
definitely vital.
Exactly. Like if it's raining or something, it's going to be a little bit of extenuating circumstances. But having said that, I had a lady call me last week. She was a referral from one of my current clients, not one of my past clients. And she was like, I don't know what happened to my realtor. He kind of dropped off the face of the earth. And, I call him. I found a house that I want to see today, and I can't get a hold of him. By the time he responds to me, all the houses that I'm interested in are off the market. And I was
Too
like,
bad.
have you signed anything with him? And she said, nope. I said, when can I can meet you out there in 30 minutes.
Yep.
So it's so important. And that's, like I said, what I said in my weekly email, who you work with matters, especially right now.
Yep.
If you're a buyer, man, it's a tough time as it is. I mean, I have buyers that I'm working with who we've been looking for a couple months, and we've seen houses within 24 hours of when they're on the market, submitted offers within 3 hours of our showing, and still you're losing out because you're up against multiple offers. But having said that, imagine if you're waiting 2 days or 3 days after it's listed to go look at it. I mean, you're just not even in the race at that point.
Yeah.
It's just a moot point.
It's a huge factor.
Yeah. So having said that, communication is key, 100%.
Yes. Yep.
And that's why we try and be, to take charge in the transaction and not even take charge so much as just make sure that everybody has everything that they need.
Yep.
Because a lot of times a survey company or, a title company will be waiting on something from the lender. And it's like, well, who's bugging the lender to make sure that we get that, and somebody has to.
Yep.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the more communication you have, the faster things will happen,
Yeah.
which especially now, a lot of closings are being delayed too. I mean, we're heading into the holidays. It's COVID time with the hurricane too, with Thanksgiving. Things are getting pushed so often. So closing on time it's important to people.
Yeah.
They have a date when they think they're going to be out of their house or into their new house. And, everybody has to be working simultaneously to get that, to get it done.
Well, and like you said, especially around the holidays, people's hopes are high. They're in good spirits, which can be a pro or it can be a con,
Yeah,
depending
because
on
you
who
can
the
really
client is.
ruin their day.
Their holiday season, yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough, But at the same time, like you said, it's all about just making sure your ducks are in a row. And if you're doing that, you'll get the job done.
Yeah.
You'll get to closing. But it's difficult, with JoJo working as a mortgage processor. She sees that from the lender's side, where it's like, if you're not getting a response from so-and-so, what
It can
you
hold
do?
things up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that's at that point, it's not your fault.
yeah, it's just the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody's going to be upset, which
Exactly.
is why, again, just kind of a toss back towards Derek Bignell's episode. He emphasized that thoroughly. And again, like you said, that's why we use him, because
Mm-hmm.
his communication is on point. I
Exactly.
mean, there's been, even when I first started here, which was a little over 2 months ago, I remember there was one transaction we called him, I think, 7 times that day, which is excessive.
It is excessive. I remember.
But he didn't have a single problem with it.
Yeah.
And he just said, hey, as soon as I got it, as soon as I got the paperwork lined up, I'll pass it your way.
Yep.
And that made us happy. All we
Yep.
wanted was a quick yes or no,
Mhm.
whether or not everything was in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of times I'm just reaching out for updates. Hey, what's going
Yep.
on? You
Yep.
know, because the more you're reminding them something's going on, hopefully the quicker things will get done.
Yeah. Well, in my professional opinion, my personal opinion,
Both apply.
well,
Personal and professional.
yeah, it's getting more professional as time goes on.
Yeah.
But that spirit of being willing to communicate is everything. If you're
Mhm.
working with a lender or anybody that's bothered by how many updates you want, I mean, sure, it's annoying. Everybody understands that. Everybody on the receiving and giving end understands that. But if you're giving updates and you're all on the same track, then you're not going to have any problems. And everybody who's professional understands that.
Yeah.
And that's the most important point. It's difficult dealing with someone, like you said, that's bothered, on maybe the second or third email of the week. It's like, I'll get it done when I have it done. And
Yeah.
I understand that. I get where that's coming from. But we're all just trying to work together.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's a lot of, especially realtors, have this view of, I guess, the transaction as such they just want to feel cool. They want to feel like the really cool realtor.
I wasn't
Like
sure what that face was that you were making while I was saying that, but
No,
I can see where
I'm
you're coming
saying
from.
like it's a collaboration. You're all on the same side.
Mhm.
There's no adversarial, even negotiating offers, man. It
No,
irritates me
yeah.
so much when somebody is just straight up rude or completely unhelpful. It's like
Yeah.
I want to do a deal with you because your sellers want to sell and my buyers want to buy, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Why are you coming at me like you're trying to be, I don't even know.
Defensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
defensive
Well, and
or just
even-
aggressively negotiating. It's like, well,
Yeah.
come on, can we figure
We're
something
just
out?
trying to work something out
Yeah.
that makes everybody happy.
Yeah, we're not on Selling Sunset.
Yeah.
We're not on a Netflix show.
Yeah. It's not like we're at, Pawn Stars being like, hey, I got to get $500 out of this $400
Yeah.
item. It's like, well, I can see where that could be perceived potentially, but overall, I mean, we're just trying to make everybody happy,
Yeah,
So-
exactly. That's exactly what a realtor's job is. Just make sure everybody's
Everybody's happy.
doing their job and make sure everybody's happy. That's
Yep.
exactly right. So, okay, so the communication aspect of it. I mean, and you've had to learn the steps to the transaction and things like that, and paperwork and contractual stuff. But I'd say you picked that up pretty well. You haven't really, I don't think you've struggled as much as you were worried.
Yeah.
It was easy to feel like in the first couple of weeks you were just drinking from a fire hose.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was so much information. But I think we've settled into a pretty good rhythm now.
Definitely. Well, I felt like even today when you gave me, there was a project, I forget what it was. Yeah, I'm not even going to try and remember, but you gave me a project today that I remember you said it the exact same way a little over a month ago. And at the time I was like,
I don't
how
know
do
what
I
that
even,
means.
yeah, how do I even go about doing that?
Yeah.
And then today it was like, you told me, and I was like, yep, I got it done. And
Boom.
it clicked with me. I was like, wow, I
I
didn't
told you.
think I would get
See,
there,
it's so cool
you know?
because I say this all the time, but you just wake up one day and you're like, oh, I know how to do this. I'm pretty comfortable in my
Yeah.
job. And that's such a good feeling.
It is. It really
happens
is.
to everybody. If you're working hard and really learning as you should be in your job, then that will happen to you sooner than later. So that's exciting to hear.
I just wanted to point something out real quick. Having done arm day yesterday, holding this mic, it's
heavy,
It's
right?
all of like 3 or 4 pounds.
I
Maybe,
know.
but oh,
No,
I'm like
it's probably not
swapping
even
between
3 or 4
arms.
pounds. I'll bet it's
Yep.
not.
it feels like it.
It does.
Feels like 10 pounds.
I know. Yeah, my hands getting tired. We
Yeah.
figured like,
My
let's
shoulders.
do a little more of a relaxed feel this time and just hold the microphones. And I'm regretting that now. My thumb is sore.
But I think it's a good vibe, so we're just gonna keep
it's nice.
rolling with it.
I do feel more comfortable than
Yeah.
having it like on the stand.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like we're in much more of a free flowing environment, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else that you'd like to say to our audience about working for me or working in the real estate industry or Pensacola in general?
I would say it's a tough question, but I guess the first thing that comes to mind when you ask me that question is for anyone considering doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's advice that if you listen to any of our other podcasts, it's obvious you just got to dive into it. You got to put everything you got into it. But with that being said, as kind of a disclaimer, I think, it's a wonderful industry to be in. It's wonderful working with other people.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, making people's, biggest purchase of their life happen. It's great being on that side. So
and you're talking with people and collaborating with people on a daily basis, all day, every day.
More than anything, if I'm being perfectly honest, I wish I had gotten into it sooner.
Really?
But that being said, only being 23 years old, I guess at this point, we're still kind of hopping on it.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't even be involved at all. So I've got you to credit a lot for that.
That's cool. I'll take that credit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, and that's the thing. You're 23. I'm 22. It's such a, people that I talk to are like, man, you're starting so young. I'm so jealous. And I love when people say that. I really do. It makes me feel like I'm ahead of the 8 ball.
Yeah.
And it's easy for me. I have a couple of friends who got licensed at 18 and I'm like, wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like getting licensed at 20, like I did, gave me just enough life experience to be like a step ahead. I'm glad I didn't get licensed at 18. I'm glad I did the way I did. And even getting licensed at 20, I still struggled. I had my first few appointments. They were like, how old are you? And I was like, and I feel like I presented much older than I was at the time.
For sure.
But I was just joking with Mark yesterday because I told him, I was like, every listing appointment I've been on for the last 6 months, nobody's asked me how many homes have you sold or how old are you.
Yeah, it's not even a factor.
I mean, even more so than 6 months, like all of 2020, I would say. After my first, after the end of last year, after my first year, I haven't had that question in a long time.
That's good.
And I think he told me, he was like, it's just about presentation. It's just about, a certain level of confidence. And I agree with that. I really do.
That plays into it heavily.
Yeah, it does. But what you were saying as far as people jumping in, that was another thing, because Mark and I went out for dinner last night just to talk about a couple other things we have going on. And he was saying people come to him, less so now, but when he was actively selling himself, people would come to him all the time. Mark, I want to work for you. Can you find a spot for me?
Yeah.
And he would tell all of them, yeah, you can come work for me. Get your license and come talk to me.
Yeah.
Go get your license. Yeah. Start. Show me that you're going to start. Show me that you actually want to work. I'm not going to coach you through all this stuff. I'm not going to tell you anything. We're not going to go out for dinner. I'm not going to tell you how to be a successful realtor. Get your real estate license. Come work for me, and we'll make a ton of money together.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Yeah.
But you got to go get your license first.
Well put.
Yeah, because I told him how you and I have been talking before. I have people who want advice, and most of them are my friends, and so I'm more than happy to talk with people and talk with them about
absolutely.
What steps they can be taking now to prepare themselves. And to be honest, I by no means feel qualified to give that kind of advice, but it makes me feel good when people call me and ask. But I just told them, I was like, there have been a couple times where people that I know less well have wanted to meet in person or take me out for lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, to some degree, no offense to anybody if you're listening to this, but to some degree, it's kind of a waste of time, because I know as soon as I leave there, it's like, okay, I could kind of see them drone out when I started talking, and that's really not a good feeling.
No, it's not.
And it's like, okay, if you are really serious, how about you take your first few steps, and then I'll take the time to help you, which sounds very selfish, and I'm not trying to be selfish, but time is important. Time is valuable.
It's weird too, because coming from my side of the fence, I would have looked at that a year maybe or so ago. Man, even probably 6 months, actually. I would look at that statement 6 months ago and said, you probably are being a little selfish. You might want to check yourself. But then being in it with you, realizing how much stuff there has to be done throughout the day. Like there was some statement you made earlier today that was like, oh yeah, I don't even have time for that. And it was something petty. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's so true.
Yeah.
You don't have time for that. It's something that we used to do all the time, you know. But now everything we do, and we do time budget quite a bit, but everything we do has a purpose.
Yeah.
And is either a means to an end or like we talked about before, it's a pipeline to get to
exactly
what we want to produce.
I mean, obviously we still waste a lot of time, as everybody does.
Yes.
Everybody can get better at time management. I mean, one thing for me, man, I love taking naps. I love taking naps. I like waking up early, and then later in the day, I like to lay down for a power nap or something.
Recharge.
Just to recharge. And I feel like that's okay sometimes, not every day.
Yeah,
That's right. And I still, like, every time I wake up, I'm like, it's still working hours. I still need to be working.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's easy sometimes whenever you say you're too busy, people are like, oh, you're not, because you still do this and this and this. It's like, no, I plan for those things. I budget time for those things. I was just thinking time aside for those things.
Even video games, like we talked on our last podcast with Paul, you budget those things out of your day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's actually a really interesting concept that I heard. I listened to the Bigger Pockets podcast, and I was listening to an episode like a week or two ago where they were talking about, I think it was called like the tyranny of to-do lists or something like that. It was just about being productive. And the guy was talking about how basically if you tell me something is important to me, it means nothing to me. Show me your calendar. Show me what's important to you. So, and he was going through how, he has everything scheduled in his life so he goes to the calendar and he schedules personal time first. What do I need to do? To stay healthy this week? Do I need to schedule time for meal prep or for working out? That's a big one.
Yeah.
And then family next. So he takes time and sets it aside and just blocks it off on the calendar. Okay, Sunday afternoon, I'm going to do this with my family. Friday evening, we're going to go to a movie or whatever. He blocks time for the family, and then he blocks time for his work, and then the rest in between is free time.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. And he was saying, like, if you love playing video games, cool. Schedule it.
Yep.
And then follow that schedule. Because that's the problem with watching Netflix shows or playing video games. I think a lot of times you start it and then 4 hours later you're like, oh, where'd the time
it gets away
go?
from you.
And that's why I've enjoyed not playing video games at all for the last 6 months, because it's like I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
TV is less I don't really sit down and just binge watch stuff.
Yeah, it's less your kryptonite.
So yeah, but having said that, scheduling things, just because you do fun things doesn't mean that you're still not following your schedule. You know, it's really so. Yeah, and I still don't like that. I try not to use that phrase, I don't have time, because it really isn't true. It just means that it's not a priority, And when you say that's not a priority, it puts you in the driver's seat and puts you in control of whatever you're, doing.
That's right. And I guess thinking on that specifically, I would have assumed that that's what you meant exactly. But at the same time, it's good to clarify that it's true. Your priority list is exactly that. You've got things towards the top.
On my priority
exactly.
List. Yeah.
So yeah, and it's good. One other thing that I was thinking of is just like video games, or even let's do it a little bit more with something that's beneficial, working out, or for us as Christians, doing your devotions, going to church. You put those high on your priority list for a reason, because
at least they should be.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're not, maybe you should kind of recalibrate and kind of like I was saying earlier, it dawned on me today how it's like you don't have time for that. Maybe you should put yourself in that position where it's like, do I really have time for this? Do I really have time to binge watch this show or anything? And I'm not like trying to preach anything, but at the same time, it's well, it's true. I guess I'm preaching more to my past self concerning working out and devotion specifically. It's like in the morning, you wake up 30 minutes earlier, and you always just kind of hear that for anything regarding self-help or, personal benefit.
Yeah, wake up earlier than you would have
wake
before.
up early. Yeah, and you just do it. You get it done. Or working out, you stay up later, you just get it done. And it's kind of funny, like a phrase that always has stuck with me is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He would say in response to people being like, how do you have enough time to do, everything on your list in a day? And he's like, well, I cut it out of my sleep schedule. And he's like, 6 hours of sleep isn't enough for you? Well, sleep a little bit faster. Sleep a little bit
sleep
faster.
faster. I like that. I wish I could. You heard me say last night I was headed, actually, no, I wasn't headed to bed because I stayed up late last night and was working. But we were like making the couch up because I stayed the night at your house.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I didn't have to sleep. I wish the human body did not need sleep, because I hate it. I hate taking well, sometimes it's 4 hours, sometimes it's 6, and sometimes it's 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate blocking out those hours. It's like I'm wasting time.
You're not doing anything.
Not doing anything. You're just laying there.
It's so funny, but it's true, especially for
Yeah.
working out. You need a certain amount of sleep to be able to recover, and functioning on a quick pace of life, you also need time to recover and just kind of recoup.
Yeah, when you push hard, you do need that
Yeah.
time to recover. Anyway.
So our questions from our Instagram, I believe you
Yes.
mentioned that at the beginning of the episode.
We
So
did,
we'll go
yep.
ahead and dive into those.
Okay, let's see here. So let me look up the story real quick. And thank you to those of you who
Participated.
responded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that means a lot, and having that engagement, it just gives us content. I like having content
Yeah.
to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah. It's fun. It's interactive content. We
It
could have
is.
come up with anything, to talk about.
But also the things that we think are interesting to talk about, maybe nobody else does.
Yeah. Like sleep.
Like sleep. Exactly. We just talked
Yeah.
about sleep for like 15 minutes. So, okay. So question number 1, how do you keep your transactions organized? Do you want to take this one?
Notion. So Notion was just produced, a few months ago?
I have no idea. We should be sponsored by
Just
Notion.
discovered, at this point.
I've told so many people about Notion.
We 100% function on Notion alone.
Mm-hmm.
We put everything from our transactions into there, although we do use some of the Apple, like the iCloud sharing for some of our transactional paperwork.
Yeah.
But as far as all of our planning, all of our transaction management, all of our scheduling goes through Notion.
Yeah.
And that's pretty recently, within the past 3-4 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, ever since Nathan Holmes showed it to me. It's
but
such an interesting app. It's like a database spreadsheet hybrid,
Mhm.
and I've given this pitch so many times.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a spreadsheet, like in Microsoft Excel, but every cell you can open up as its own page, and you
Mhm.
can have pages within pages within pages. Everything is fully customizable.
Yep.
It's really
Phenomenal.
It's phenomenal, yeah, and the different roll-ups and relations that they have. You can have. I'm working now on organizing literally we have not a to-do list anymore. We have a transaction action items spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And it all has the information in there regarding the transactions and checklists and all these different things. So Notion is definitely, but that wasn't easy to set up. That took a long time. That was one thing that I was doing a couple weeks ago, is like spending hours just learning how Notion works. But now if I go in there, you can see where my little cursor is, my icon, and it changes in real time, and we update the transactions and everything. So it works really good.
Helps us coordinate very efficiently.
Yep. And because it's only you and I, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's sustainable for more people too. You can
sure
have,
is.
I don't know how many people, but it'll work for any business size.
Yeah.
So whenever we bring somebody else on, we can just drop them into, the checklist and be like, hey, here's our transactions, read these page instructions, and here's the checklist of what needs done.
Here's the templates.
That's it.
Here's everything you need.
Yep, exactly. So I could talk about Notion for half an hour, but I'll spare all you guys. Question number 2. Are you single, ready to mingle, like the taste of a Pringle? I am single.
Like the taste of a Pringle.
I do like the taste of a Pringle.
So which Pringle taste would you be? We'll humor Harry on this one. He's the one who asked us that question.
I'd be pizza.
You that question.
Pizza.
Pizza.
Yep.
I forgot there was a Pringle pizza flavor.
Oh, yeah.
That's impressive.
Original's pretty good, too, though. I'm an original guy.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Single like the taste of a Pringle.
Yeah, no, I am single, so if anybody knows of any eligible, girls, keep that information to yourself, because I'm way too busy.
I was going to say, that better not be the plug you're going for right now.
Hey, send me somebody I can go on a date with.
Next question, please.
Next question. What's the hardest part of any transaction? You tell me, Danny boy.
I was kind of looking forward to hearing your pitch first.
I should have thought about that
longer.
Before we came out here. The hardest part of any transactions, I would say, is managing expectations and emotions.
Yeah.
Because, I could say the hardest part of a transaction would be, coordinating and or if something goes wrong, like if there's a huge amount of wood rot or there's a roof replacement that needs to happen. But the bottom line is those are pretty typical things. There's not really anything in a transaction that's never been seen before.
Yeah.
It's all, okay, we need to pass the appraisal. We need to pass the inspections. And if there's things that come up, you should be prepared for that. The hardest part is keeping everybody on target,
Yeah.
on track,
And happy, like we were talking about
exactly. When you're working with sellers and buyers, it's so easy for them to get irritated over things, or just burnt out.
Yeah,
And
burnt out.
once they get burnt out and they just start saying okay to every text you send them, it's like, oh boy, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a real problem.
Yeah. It's difficult.
Yeah. So it's a stressful, buying and selling is, they say it's one of the most stressful events in your life next to the death of a loved one, is buying a house. And I don't know if that's just realtors trying to scratch their own backs or not, but it is stressful. I think
I don't know if realtors are the ones who made that statement, though, because thinking about it, I mean, you think about how much there is to coordinate the moving truck. You just think about how much, especially if you've got a family of a few different people, how much pivots on the purchase of a home, being able to have a roof over your head at the point, if it comes down to it and you haven't been able to make closing on time, it can get extremely strenuous.
It's a nail biter. Yeah, you just went through it for selling your house.
Yeah, I mean, for selling, which isn't even the worst part. I mean, if I had had a problem buying it, that would have been a nightmare.
Way worse.
Trying to get in, on time.
Yeah. Yep. So I would say the hardest part of a transaction is managing expectations and your client's emotions. And even sometimes the other realtors' emotions.
Other realtors' emotions, like we were talking about before, the lenders.
They get
everybody's emotions.
Yep.
Every human in the process has emotions that you're trying to manage.
Yep. Except us.
Yeah.
We are laser focused and
robots.
Okay. How has Danny, your new employee, improved productivity?
You tell me.
Dude, I don't know. Actually, we needed to have a talk about this anyway.
Yeah.
You're fired.
You're adopted.
We already knew that. So you have helped my productivity tremendously. And I feel like I talk about this almost every episode. Whenever we have people on, I'm like, yeah, so he's only been here for like 2 months and this is everything that we've done. So maybe this isn't new for the listeners of the podcast, but just taking things off my plate, and you're getting better and better at it. Actually, yesterday, I told you, I was like, hey, clear out the inbox and let me know if there's something I need to respond to, but otherwise handle it. And you did. And that's just something that, you hadn't really been told to do before, but it's like, hey, they're asking you what survey company we're closing this transaction at. You know that. Answer it, So having said that, that was yesterday very helpful. And today, all day, it's been that way. I mean, we get, how many emails would you say? 100 emails a day? 50?
I don't know
50,
about
maybe 100.
I would say 50 easy.
Yeah. And before closings, a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just handling the communication with people, like you said, is that one thing that you didn't expect it to be that way, but it's so important. I agree. But a lot of times, trying to chase people down to get things signed or order surveys or order inspections or whatever, it's so time consuming. And that's the biggest way that you've helped me, is just by taking a lot of that little stuff off my plate that doesn't require me personally to be there. Contract negotiations, showings, everything like that. I'm the forward facing, my clients know me and they deal directly with me until it's something that doesn't need me.
Yep.
And when it's something that doesn't need me and I'm still got my fingers in it, then that's taking time away from either my current clients or my future clients, finding more
future
business.
clients is a key factor.
Yep. So that's the way that you help me most, is by handling a lot of that.
I appreciate that response.
So
yeah.
Do you need good credit to buy a house?
Common question. Good question. Everybody needs to know.
Go to my Instagram and look. A couple weeks back, we did a Q&A on what the minimum requirements are for FHA and VA loans. But the bottom line is, you don't need great credit, but you can't have bad credit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think 620 is the minimum for right now for FHA. 620 or 640?
That's actually a great question.
I need to go back and
I can't remember the number. Well, and everything changed with COVID too, because when I bought a house, I think I didn't even have an auto loan. I didn't have any similar.
You didn't have any substantial credit.
Yeah, exactly. It was
same. I just had credit cards.
Yeah.
And I had good credit, but it was like flimsy because credit cards don't really, they look for a loan or personal loan or something.
Yep. Someone or a loan that is similar to the one you're applying for. But I still got a solid loan. I'm not going to say like it was a great loan for my first home, but it was a good loan. And I don't remember my credit score. I think it was like 640 or something like that. It was pretty low. I can't say low, actually. That's probably...
No,
but
it wasn't low.
It's fair.
So yeah, the bottom line is they look for a few different things whenever you're applying for a house, and they look for every loan type is going to have different requirements for your debt to income.
Yeah.
They look at your certain amount of debt that you have, your monthly obligations. They look at your income, and then your mortgage payment can only be a percentage of what that income is. And then they obviously qualify you based on your credit, because you got to look at it. They're lending you. I think a lot of people look at a mortgage as like this thing where it's like either a checkbox, yes or no, I can qualify. It's a company giving you $100,000, $200,000.
Yeah.
So they're looking at your credit. All a credit rating is just your willingness to pay back creditors.
Yep.
Or people loaning you money.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, would you lend yourself $100,000? Would you give a borrower who had your same credentials that much money if they had a poor credit score and they were terrible at paying stuff back? Probably not.
Yeah.
So look at it that way.
It's a good way to put it.
Get that here. Okay. This is from Isaac. He said, gee, that guy in the background is good looking. Can I get his number?
Who's that guy in the background?
He's talking about you, your beautiful bald head.
Well, I already have your number, Isaac.
Yeah.
Call me.
Call me.
Call me.
And man, I feel like this story was kind of a thirst trap, because Alex Garcia, giving you a shout out on the podcast.
A thirst trap.
He said, why you so cute, BB?
That's such a weird term. And that's such an Alex thing to say.
It is an Alex thing. Yeah. Anybody who's listening who knows Alex Garcia knows that he's that way.
That's so funny.
Okay. And then the very last one, best advice for someone thinking of going to a 100% commission-based job. And I'm actually going to take this one as well. So this is a question that a lot of people ask me, like I was saying earlier, when they are looking at possibly getting their real estate license or getting into real estate. A lot of people are like, how did you sustain yourself in the very beginning, from the time you got licensed to the time you closed the deal? The bottom line is, number one, you have to go all in. Like you were saying earlier, Dan, you have to jump both feet first and just go all in. You just have to commit, because if you're worried about this, that, and the other, you're not telling your friends and family, like what's going on, or making sure that everybody knows you're in real estate. And if you're not making calls to people and doing that kind of thing, especially when you first start out, you're going to have nothing.
Yeah.
So when I first started, that was my approach. We talked about the sleep schedule thing. I was going to bed very late and waking up very early and trying to sleep times in between, but I was on the phone all day, every day. And I tried to go, I was calling for sale by owners at that time. And I tried for a minimum of 2 for sale by owner appointments a day. So some weeks I'd have 10 and some weeks I'd have 4. But I tried to meet at least 2 for sale by owners every day and just go walk through houses. And that actually helped me a lot. We're getting kind of close to.
No, we're good.
Okay, cool. That helped me a lot, even just because I didn't know anything about houses. So just getting inside houses and looking around and, shaking hands with homeowners and figuring out what they're, what they were looking for in a realtor and different things like that. And that's how I got my first couple sales as well. One of them was for sale by owner, and then they referred me like 3 of their family members, which was really cool. So I say all that. That's kind of a long-winded way of just saying, number one, commit, and you can't be embarrassed about what you're doing. You just have to do it, and you have to commit to doing the work. And number 2, you should have some savings in the bank. You should have your expenses covered for just a little bit.
You should be living within your means, probably.
Well, that's true. Yeah, probably lowering your expenses as much as you can. For me, I dropped out kind of, I don't want to say on a whim, but I dropped out kind of last minute before my second semester of sophomore year. So I already had some saved up for my college bill. And I was working at Men's Warehouse, and I was interning with the county commissioner's office. So I quit Men's Warehouse and I continued interning because I was able to work real estate while I was there. So that sustained me for a little bit. But having said that, if I didn't have my savings, I wouldn't probably have gotten through. So save and work hard. It's not hard advice. It's not advice that anybody hasn't heard before.
It's hard to follow advice, but
it is hard.
It's simple. It's like the phrase, it's simple, not easy.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor Webb was on our podcast, I think episode 14 or 15. I should probably know this.
It's okay.
Edit and upload it, but
I didn't
Anyway,
realize that this was episode number 19.
yeah, well, actually, that's a good point. But anyway, he's got some great advice. I think towards the end of the episode, he talks about how he got involved into real estate. He talks about diving headfirst, committing 100%. He went around knocking on doors. He did everything he could to be able to, function. But he talks about having that nest egg saved up. He talks about, the value that you have to keep your eyes focused on going into it.
Yeah.
And just every factor he discusses on that episode. I think he put it really well.
Yeah.
But
I've only done door knocking. I think I went out 3 times. And I had a buyer who wanted to be in a certain neighborhood and they lost out on it.
Yeah.
They lost out on a house that they had offered on. So I went and knocked on every other door in the neighborhood. And I only talked to, a few people and gave them my business card, trying to see if anybody else was willing to sell.
Yeah.
But man, door knocking is tough too.
Yeah.
And cold calling is.
I was going to say every avenue of lead gen
It's
in
tough.
some way or another is
It's tough because it puts you in front of people that you don't know. But that's the only way. That's the only way to meet people and potential clients is talking to people that you don't know. Even if you pay for a Zillow lead, someone you don't know is going to call you. It all comes back to talking to someone that you don't know.
Yeah. Which is not easy.
That's the thing. And I think a lot of people, they look at, they look at commission jobs as like this Pandora's box type thing. Like, oh, I want to do this. And it sounds cool and exciting. But in reality, it's gritty and it's dirty and it's not fun.
Yeah.
The day-to-day is not fun. And that's the other advice that I give to people a lot of times is if you want to make something happen for yourself, you can, but it's going to take waking up and doing work that you don't enjoy, work that you probably hate. It's going to take doing that for a long time to make something happen.
A lot of sacrifice that you can't really foresee before you're into it.
Yeah. Yep. And it's not this sexy kind of industry where you're in a suit sitting across the table and putting together $1 million deals. It's not.
No.
You're walking through houses that don't have AC and they're vacant and you're sweating and you're making calls and you're writing paperwork and filing it away. And
well, it's funny because we've been there's been a few people who have talked to us about it, and again, no name mentioning or anything like that, but it's like it's tough when somebody comes to you and be like, well, if I was in real estate, I'd probably do like the higher end luxury.
Yeah, I had a friend tell me that one.
Or anything like that. But you have to start from the bottom.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's the thing. I was
just gonna say you can't just jump into that, signing $1 million deal. And
you don't just decide. I think when I start real estate, I'm going to start luxury. I think that'd be cool. Well, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. But the thing is that people don't understand, and I'm going to draw a bunch of different lines of thought together here. So like in starting a podcast, okay, we started a podcast.
Yeah.
We're working all the time. Twice a week we record and we upload and we try and, you help me tremendously with it. You take care of most of it actually. That takes a lot of your time. Just starting a podcast, the listeners aren't going to come.
Yeah.
You have to provide value and you have to, be consistent. It is what it is, and we're not looking at the numbers. We're just doing this because number one, we enjoy the heck out of it. We really enjoy doing this and meeting our guests and talking with them and building those relationships. And number two, hopefully over the long term, we can build something up that reaches more people and helps even more people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having said that, it's like, it's not that you build it and they will come. You're not going to get your license and then they will come and buy houses from you.
No.
You don't get your license and then decide, I think I want to start in luxury. Let's do 300,000 plus. That's not how it works.
No.
You have to build your experience, and you're going to talk to a lot of people who are like, how many deals have you done? None? Okay, yeah, no.
Yeah.
You're not going to sell my house.
Yep.
In the lower price points than you'd think.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a little bit of a rant there. So yeah, those are all of our questions from Instagram, from our story. And if you would like to, I think we're actually going to start doing Q&A episodes like this. We talked about this during the break.
Yeah.
Let's start doing this maybe once a month or something like that.
Yeah. We'll do it a little bit more often.
Yeah.
We're not going to set a time frame on air necessarily, but we're discussing it. And I think this...
No, on air holds more weight.
Yeah.
I'll hold you to it.
Kind of like me changing my Instagram username. Oh my
Change it to the
goodness.
ball blessing right now.
Yep. And I did.
Yeah, you did. And it's still the ball blessing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can't change it for like 2 weeks or something like that.
2 weeks, 14 days.
That's so rich.
That's fine.
Anyway, having said that, no, we'll do more Q&A episodes. So go follow me on Instagram at Michael Warner LLC, and we'll do a story before the episodes and ask for questions.
Yeah.
So
And we will slightly pick and choose the questions that we obviously answer.
For
but
sure.
at the same time, having said that, as a disclaimer, feel free to put anything out there that you're willing to, and we'll weigh it accordingly. And hopefully, you can be involved in that way too.
Yeah.
We enjoy the interaction that we get on social media.
Yeah, it's enjoyable to have people submitting and seeing, like, even if people are just trying to, come up with questions to ask so we have content to talk about. It's really nice. Honestly, it really is. And if there's anybody who has a question, like, what do you need good credit to buy a house? Well, let's help answer that.
Yeah.
And most likely somebody else has had that same question, and it helps more people than one.
I feel like a teacher saying this, but at the same time, there's no stupid questions, because a lot of these questions are common questions that we get asked often. So it's not necessarily whether or not you should know this by now. Don't automatically assume that. But at the same time, everybody needs to know it, so we can repeat it as often as we need to for people to continue to be exposed to it.
Agreed.
And aware.
Yep.
So
I love it, man. Okay. Well, we are going to finish this, and I'm going to head out of town. So I'll be gone for the next few days. And I think actually we're going to miss the episode next Tuesday.
Yep.
Just by circumstances, but that's okay because it's our show and we decide when to
put
out episodes.
And it is the Christmas season.
It is, yes. So we're heading into the holidays. And I feel like there's plenty of content anyway. If somebody finds our stuff and enjoys it, they have plenty that they can go back and watch.
Yeah, we just started producing an end screen on our YouTube videos. So at the end of any of our YouTube videos
go watch
from
more.
Episode, I think, 18, there'll be links for other ones, or you can just scroll down our feed. Like we said, this will be episode 19. We've got plenty to choose from. So
exactly right.
Feel free to binge it during December.
Episode 19, we'll be hitting 25, 26 episodes before the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. And, talking about it, we've definitely developed an organic following, like we talked with Phil Hollinsworth on, I think, episode 13 or something like that. Anyway, we're developing it more and more, not necessarily substantial, but it's progressing.
Slowly growing, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just fun to see. I'm saying all this to say that it's fun to see our total amount of plays just continually go up
it's
and
fun
up.
to see that interaction.
Yeah,
it's really nice when you put something out there and people find it enjoyable.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Whenever I find a podcast, I binge it. So
yeah, I do too.
Binge ours.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Binge our podcast.